Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Well, it's time to make a few more Christmas cards today, and these are going to be 5 by 7 inch cards. I wanted to make my cards a little bit larger to fit some of the beautiful products that I'm going to be using. Let me show you what I have here on my desk. I have a cute pouch here full of crafty tools, and it's called Susan's Garden, the Ultimate Toolkit. I'll give you a closer look at this in just a minute. Let me show you what else I have. This set of cutting dies is called Woodland Wreath and Feathered Friends. This circle die here cuts out the most beautiful wreath, and then it has 2 very detailed birds. So it cuts out the birds, but it also has some etched details on those. You could make this fit any size card you'd like by cutting it down a little bit. But again, I'm going to be making some larger sized cards today. And this is a poinsettia set. These were designed by Susan Tierney Cockburn, and I just love to watch her create these gorgeous, realistic flowers. She's created a lot of beautiful floral sets that are available on the Spellbinders website. So let's take a look at what's inside this pouch. This brown paper is a non-stick sheet to keep your craft mat clean. The black one is a foam molding mat to help you add dimension to your flowers. And here is the all-in-one tool. You get 2 sets of tweezers. These are the bent nose tweezers, as well as a pair of detail scissors and a pair of reverse tweezers. These really come in handy when you're putting your flowers together. And then for your all-in-one tool, you get a lot of different tips that go with it. They pop into place very easily. I'll show you that here in just a minute. But there's a lot of different tips to help you create beautiful flowers. So let's start with the Woodland Wreath and Feathered Friends set. I went ahead and cut out 3 beautiful wreaths. One's in silver, one's in white, and one is in blue spruce. And then I cut out 2 of each bird. I wasn't sure if I wanted to use the silver or the iridescent cardstock for those. So let's pull in our card base. And again, this is 5 by 7. And then I have some specialty paper from Spellbinders. I love this stuff. It's called corrugated stock, and it has some really fun texture to it. And one side has the texture and the other side is flat, so it's very easy to attach to your different papers or your card base. So let's go ahead and attach that to our card base. I cut it just a little bit smaller so you could see the white matting around it. And then I'm going to layer these wreaths, all 3 of them. The 3 layers add a lot of fun dimension and movement to this wreath. So let's start with the silver. And this paper is called Brushed Silver from Spellbinders. I'm going to use some liquid glue and just put a little bit behind this. I'm not going over each and every twig. I'm just putting a little bit of glue here and there. This wreath would fit on an A2 sized card, but you would need to chop a little bit of it off at the edges or else put it in a bigger envelope. You could put this on any size card, really, but you would have to do a little bit of trimming. So let's put this silver one down first. Next, we're going to put the white one over it. I'm going to offset it so that the wreath looks really nice and full. And then I'm going to layer on the blue spruce wreath. I think these 3 papers look so pretty together. So let's offset this one as well. Then you can see all 3 of the cardstocks. This is going to make a lovely Christmas card to send out into the mail, and I love the bigger size. It's just going to make that much more of an impact. So let's layer up these birds. I decided to use the iridescent bird on top. And again, layering them together will add a little more stability to them and a little more dimension. These cardstocks are both from previous card kits of the month from Spellbinders. I keep all of the scraps that I have left over from these kits. But let's stop here. I'll let those dry and put together our sentiment. I'm pulling in the Mini Christmas Greetings stamp set, and it has a die that goes with it. I've used this a lot already. It came out last month, but it's such a nice set. I'm going to stamp up the one that says Merry Wishes to You and Yours, and I pulled out some cranberry cardstock. So I'm going to ink this up with some Versamark ink, which is a clear sticky ink. And then I'll be pouring over some white embossing powder. And the white embossing powder really pops on this pretty red cardstock. There are a lot of fun sentiments in this set, and it has you covered for Christmas as well as just winter sentiments and even New Year's sentiments. I do like to ink up my stamps a couple of times just to make sure I have a good impression. And then I'll pull out a piece of type paper to catch the white embossing powder and just pour that over it. I'll let my heat tool warm up for about a minute, and then this melts really fast because it's so small. And then I am going to use a coordinating die to cut this out. And here it is all ready to put on the card. I use Spellbinders craft tape. It's called the Best Ever Craft Tape, and I just love this stuff. And I reuse it a lot, so I just set my tape aside for when I need it next. I'm going to pop up the sentiment with some foam strips. I'll put one across the whole sentiment strip and pull off the release paper, and then I'm going to put a shorter one just on the inside. This way it'll be level with my wreath. And then I can just pull off the release paper and set that on the card. And it's going to go clear across the card, edge to edge. So much fun. I love that sentiment. Now for the birds. This first bird, it looks like a cardinal to me, and you could color these in if you wanted to. But I'm just going to use them as silhouettes for this card. I do end up moving the cardinal so it's more in the center. But my second bird, I'm just going to glue flat onto the wreath. I'm going to put a thin red bow up at the top. So let's attach this with a glue dot, and I'll just use my all-in-one tool to pick that up and press it behind the knot of the bow. Then I can just secure that in place up at the top of the wreath. I just love wreath cards. I like wreaths on my cards and wreaths on my front door. Next, let's embellish this card. I have some red gems. These are new from the Spellbinders shop. I wasn't sure whether I wanted to use those or the fashion silver embellishments. They would both look just gorgeous on the card, but I end up going with the red ones. These look like little berries on this, around this wreath. So I'm going to put several of them on this card. And I love that they come in all of these different sizes. I'll even put some on the wreath. And the middle of the wreath just looked too sparse, so that's why I moved the bird over. And I actually tuck it behind the sentiment, so you'll see its little tail peeking out from the bottom of the sentiment. But here is my last gem. And here it is all done. I just love all of the different textures and cardstocks on this card. And it was pretty easy and fast to put together, and then you just have a beautiful results. On card number 2, we're going to be making a poinsettia. So this is my first ever Susan Tierney Cockburn set, and I encourage you to go to the Spellbinders website and see all of the beautiful cutting die sets there are. This one is going to make a poinsettia. You could cut it out with white cardstock, but I wanted to start out with a base color. So I'm using teal topaz for my greenery on the flower. And I'm just going to be adding some quick color detail with some Copic markers. You can see the caps there up to the top left, but I'm just doing some flicking motions with the lightest of the two colors first. I'll color the inside of the leaves. And then I'm coming in with the darker color next and doing less flicks with the darkest color. But look how lovely that is, and it's so quick and easy to do. I am going to flip this over and do both sides because if you have these flowers be really dimensional, you will see both sides. Mine end up being not as dimensional, but this set is really fun to play with because you can do so much with it. I love this little non-stick sheet. It's just a great size. And then once I'm done coloring in the teal topaz cardstock, I can just wipe it off with a tissue and then keep on coloring my other flowers. Isn't that pretty? So my second color, oh, here I am wiping it off so that the colors of the Copic markers don't transfer onto my pink cardstock. So the next cardstock I'm using is called Dahlia. And I'm going to use 3 Copic markers on this one. I'll keep the caps there at the side again, but I'll start with my lightest color first and just add a lot of flick marks with this color. And I want to allow some of the pink cardstock to show through. And then I'll flip it over and do the other side. And then I'll come in with my medium color, and I'm not adding quite as many flick marks with this color. I don't want to completely cover up my lightest color of Copic marker. But these take no time at all to color in. Or if you want, like I said, you could cut them out with white cardstock and really put a lot of color and detail into these. I watched a lot of Susan's videos, and she just makes such gorgeous, realistic-looking flowers. So on the dies, it tells you how many to cut out of each flower. It says you'll need 2 of the largest flower, but of course you can cut out and layer up as many as you'd like. I decided to cut out 3, so I have 1 with the teal topaz cardstock and 2 with the Dahlia cardstock. And then you'll need 1 with the smaller flower. I'll color the rest of these off camera, but I think you got the idea of how I did that. And now let's pull out some of the tips for this all-in-one tool. I'm going to use the largest ball tool just to add some dimension to these flowers. It just pops in so easily. And you can make it any height that you'd like. On the other end, I'm putting on the bent tip piece. You can add some really pretty veining with this tool. So let's pop the rest of them back in the little bag and pull out the foam pad. This is really thick and nice. It's thicker than my mouse pad. I tried using my mouse pad to do this, but it just wasn't thick enough. So let's add some dimension to these flowers, and I'm just pushing the ball tool into the center of this flower, and it just pops up. You can also turn it over and press the tool into the tips of the leaves to add dimension, and this will help them kind of curl under. This is the first time I've ever done this, and it was really fun and easy to do. The cardstock I'm using is a very heavy weight, so I think if you were to use a lighter weight cardstock, it would be a little bit easier. I'm trying to add veining, but again, the cardstock was just very thick. But I've watched Susan's video, and she does some really beautiful veining on her flowers. So let's try this with the pink poinsettia. And again, I'm just pressing it in the middle, and it just pops up. And then I'm pressing the opposite side of the leaves just to make them curl up a bit. Spellbinders has a really pretty hydrangea set in their shop, and I have my eye on that one. I had so much fun creating these poinsettias that I want to try more of these dies. But hydrangeas are my favorite flower, so I'd really like to try out that one. I'm going to use a smaller ball tool for this smaller flower. This just works better on these smaller leaves. But it's a very well thought out toolkit. Now let's use the larger ball to press the middle down. I'm adding a piece of silver fox cardstock onto a white card base. And this will fit the card completely. I cut out a few more wreaths with some more of the blue spruce cardstock and the brushed silver cardstock. I'm just going to put 2 down on this card. And again, I'll just put little dabs of glue on the back and I will offset these. I love the look of the very pale gray cardstock behind this wreath. So pretty. I'll put the blue spruce cardstock down first and then the silver. The silver kind of softens the blue spruce on this one. I wanted to add a little more color inside the wreath. So I'm adding some peacock feathers, distress oxide, and I'm being very careful just to add a subtle little touch of color. I'm going along the sides of the wreath so that the twigs that stick out catch some of the color, and it looks really pretty. I thought that the peacock feather distress oxide matched really well with the blue spruce cardstock. Now, this little stamp set came from a card kit of the month a couple of years ago. I loved the sentiments in this set, so I'm going to use that to stamp out a sentiment inside the wreath. I chose the biggest one. This one says, "Celebrate the season." I'll link to it if they still have this in their shop. I stamped it out several times using some VersaFine Onyx Black ink. And now let's put our poinsettia at the bottom of this wreath. We'll start with the greenery first. I'm just going to hold that in place for a minute. Next, we'll put some of the pink leaves on. Or they look more red now. Let's press those into place. And like I did with the wreaths, I'm going to offset them. I'm going to add another pink one just to make it look really full and nice. And then it comes with single leaves that you could cut out if you want to add more single leaves. Here I'm going to add a teal topaz leaf. I'll just press that into place and hold it for a minute. I'll put one more at the bottom. It just needed a little more coverage there. And then I can add my smaller poinsettia leaves. I'm kind of lifting up the sides just to add more dimension to it. And now for the centers of the poinsettias, I cut these out using some brushed silver cardstock. I'm adding some gems to them. I'll press it into the foam to give it dimension. You could, of course, use your Nouveau drops instead of the gemstones, but I was too impatient. I didn't want to wait for them to dry. And I think that the sparkly teal gems look really pretty on this card. It kind of matches the teal topaz leaves. Now for the smaller one. And on this one, I added pink gems. We'll add that to the center next. But look how pretty it's turning out. And then this last little piece, you'll want to hold it with your tweezers. It has a little edge there to do so. Add a little bit of glue, and then you just twist it around your tweezers. I end up adding gems to these as well. And for these, I just used some crystal clear gems. Now let's tip those into the flower last. To add some sparkle, I pulled out my Wink of Stella glitter pen. I'm going to add a lot of glitter to this. Makes it look so pretty. And last, I'm using some of the fashion silver embellishments to put on the inside of the wreath. I'm just going to use 3. Each one's going to be a different size. That first one is hiding an ink splotch that I got on the card. It's a good way to hide your little mess-ups. I'll add a really small one right at the top. And then here is a close-up look at this card. Isn't that poinsettia just stunning? And I love it paired with the wreath. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video and got some fun inspiration for some Christmas cards of your own. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll be back again soon with another video. Take care, my friends. Bye.